Hello there guys, welcome back to a new episode. In this one, I'm giving my personal forecast on Dogecoin into the next week. Well, you already know guys that I am not a financial advisor, so please make sure to do your own research. And of course, with Dogecoin being so cheap right now, it is going to be swinging all the way up and down. So of course, it is quite risky. I'm sure you're aware of that, but please make sure to do appropriate research before investing in this coin. With that being said though, if you will enjoy this episode, please leave a like and subscribe. It would be appreciated as we are trying to grow the channel as fast as possible. Massive thank you to everybody that has subscribed so far, so let's just keep that growth going, and of course it would be helping us massively. With that being said, we're going to jump in. Yes guys, Dogecoin today has actually seen a bit of a sell-off. Now of course over the past 5 days we've seen a lot of negative action. Throughout the weekend we've seen a bit of a sell-off as well, which is pretty indicative that this one is falling by a significant amount, because let's face it guys, with markets shut and it being the weekend as of current, it shows that a lot of people are kind of selling this one, which isn't the best thing in the world. But when we get a bit of context on this one, realizing that the coin has been hyped up massively over the past few weeks, it does kind of make sense that people are probably selling off and taking profits now. So I'm not too concerned, because a lot of people have probably made a lot of money. Let's face it, if you'd have bought Dogecoin back here when it was extremely cheap, around 1 cent, and you'd have held all the way up until about 6-7 cents, you'd have made an absolute fortune if you'd have bought millions of coins. So it does make sense that people are probably selling off from that high point. On top of that guys, with it being the weekend, a lot of institutions and people who trade aren't currently working, so it does make sense that the volatility is a bit lowered over the past few days. But going forwards into the next week, I think this is quite an indication of things to come. And of course in this one we talk about the next week specifically, not really focusing on how this one could be moving in the long term. I've talked about this one in last night's episode, so please make sure that you watch that one if you want to see a bit more of an in-depth view on my personal opinions. But I think long term guys, Dogecoin does have that potential ultimately. It's a bit too hard to say at the moment, but of course it does still have the chance of exploding long term in the future. But in this one we're focusing more short term. So going into next week guys, I definitely think that Monday will be relatively flat as well, because a lot of the stock market is shut, and of course with that being shut, I know this is not on the stock market, it's a crypto, but you know what guys, a lot of people who trade are probably taking that day off as well, so it will make sense that volatility will hopefully be a bit lower into the next week. But of course going on from Tuesday onwards, I would not be surprised if this one was to sell off a bit more, and I don't think that is the worst thing in the world. As long as we can remain pretty flat for the rest of the week, if we see a bit of a sell off in the first few days of market being open, I'm not too concerned. So hopefully by Wednesday or Thursday we'll start to see this one quite flatten out, and of course hopefully even make a small increase towards the end of the week. But ultimately guys, I know a lot of people aren't going to like me saying this one, but personally I do believe that Dogecoin is going to be quite red next week, and I don't think that is a bad thing at all. Let's face it, we've seen a lot of people getting into this coin recently, and a lot of people taking more profits, which is to be expected as the price has rocketed up. Not a bad thing at all. And of course with this one being so hyped, I think a lot of people got in specifically due to the fear of missing out, and subsequently I think a lot of these people are going to be scared off by the next week, and of course by what we have already seen with it being in the red. Is this a concern? If you are a long-term investor, personally I don't believe it's too much of a concern. If you wish to buy more Dogecoin in the next week, I definitely think we are going to see a pretty decent price for this one. I think that is a good thing about a sell-off with this coin. Yes, it is a risky investment, don't get me wrong, but if you are willing to take that risk, I think next week will definitely provide some of the best opportunities price-wise that we have been seeing in a long while, because yes, we have seen this one hyped all the way up to about 8 cents, and now it's falling back down to the 5 cent range, potentially even to the 4 cent range next week. I think it is a fantastic time if you are looking to get into this coin. So realistically I think this sell-off will hopefully be over by next week, if it does even come. I personally do believe it won't be too steep. I think it may be steep enough to drop us down into the 4 cent range, and I mean the high 4 cent range. I don't think we're going to go low into it, but either way guys, I think this one does have that long-term potential. So if you are willing to take that risk, I think next week could definitely provide some decent buy opportunities. I think long-term this coin does have that potential if the company and the developers can play their cards right. So let's just see what they do long-term. Short term though, I think now is probably one of the better opportunities to buy coming up, because if the next week is red, obviously a lot more people will probably be adding to their position in the subsequent week. I think that could also influence the price going forwards, which could also help to boost us forwards again. Now don't get me wrong guys, another thing which I do need to add, a lot of the things that I am saying in this video may change if Elon Musk does keep hyping up this coin. If he is to hype it up again, which is not impossible, it could also have a massive increase on the share price, but I would not count on that happening, because yes, it is possible, but obviously that's just one of those factors which is not guaranteed, and you do need to be aware of that. So it is a possibility, but of course that can only carry the coin so far in my personal opinion. I think what we need is some real world application long term for this coin. I've said it in last night's episode, this one is starting to be accepted in multiple different places as a payment, and that is some real world application. Let's just keep that growing. Let's keep the coin growing into the future as well. And of course, once the fundamentals do become there, I think this one will have that real potential to explode in price. But as of current, guys, I do see a bit of a sell-off coming into next week. I don't think it's the world's most concerning thing at all, because we have been up by a significant amount recently. So if it was to drop a bit more, I would not be too worried if you are willing to hold this one long term. In fact, it could definitely be a great position to add more to your portfolio if you are willing to take that risk. But guys, do tell me in the comment section what you are doing with Dogecoin. Personally, I do believe that this is going to be one of the better opportunities to buy that we have been seeing, but I'd definitely wait for it to flatten out before I was to get in on this one, if you are willing to do so. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you are doing, so please do tell me in the comment section. Other than that, guys, I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye until then.